morning. My name is Jeremy Tobias and I'm the CEO of GiveEasy, and I'd like to extend a very warm welcome to you all here today to our exciting webinar, our first one for this financial year, entitled How to Become a Digital Fundraising Star Overnight. It's really timely. Cast your mind back a month ago today to 30 June, where your charity was in the spotlight. It was showtime for your organisation. And I'm really excited to be presenting to you today two fundraising superstars, two organisations that have shot the lights out, and importantly, two organisations at the beginning of their digital fundraising journey, but who are building traction, who are learning and who are implementing state-of-the-art digital fundraising techniques at their June campaign. We're going to break this up into three sections. We're going to talk about some trends. At GiveEasy, we're really privileged to see hundreds of digital fundraising campaigns, and we're going to share with you three trends that are emerging and are here to stay. We're then going to hear from Julie Mullen, the individual giving manager at Variety, the children's charity Queensland, and then from Simone Plunkett, fundraising executive at the Brisbane Lions Foundation, who will give you some high-level tips and tricks, how they mastered their June campaign, and importantly, lessons that they have learnt to set them up for success. I'll then delve deeper with them both in terms of their campaigns with a bit of Q&A. And then I'd like to welcome you to ask some questions of them both to further your digital fundraising going forward. Please feel free, even during the presentations, when you have a thought or a question, to put it in the chat box, and we'll get it to the end of the presentation. So I'm going to start with some trends, some emerging trends. We actually have produced the document available on our website of the 5 emerging trends. I'm going to focus on 3 trends that are emerging that we saw that were across most of our digital campaigns this June, and our feeling is that they will become mainstream going forward. So trend 1 is match giving. I remember 3 or 4 years ago, around 25th, 26th of June, Amnesty International was the only charity that used to run a match giving campaign. They would unveil it, surprise, we've just found a match donor, donate now, your donations will be doubled. This year, lots and lots of organisations run match giving campaigns. I would even say that if you didn't run a match giving campaign, you're in the minority. Match giving is the new super trend, and 30 June was the optimal time to run a match giving campaign. Why? Because you had this deadline that was built in. You didn't actually have to create a 24-hour or a 48-hour campaign. You had a deadline at 30 June. Donations were doubled or tripled or quadrupled over a certain period of time, matched by a corporate partner or a major donor. And at GiveEasy, we saw it across many of the campaigns that we helped. Asylum seekers ran multiple match giving hours of power during their telethon, where they raised $1 million. Outbound SMSs were sent, emails were sent, a serious social media campaign was evident. We'll hear from Simone, Brisbane Lions. They also ran a really successful match giving campaign, and organisations such as Borneo Orangutans ran match giving campaigns. I could go on and on and on. Trend 2 is emails have gone experimental. I remember first half of this year, number of charities were like, yeah, we send out the email, the response rates are down, no click-throughs, we're just going through the motions. They would have suffered while organisations that tested and experimented with their emails over 30 June won out. Donors are still donating via emails. However, the content that you produce in those emails has to be even more relevant before, and is about testing and experimenting what is the best time, what is the best content to put in their emails that gets the best results. Children's Hospital Foundation experimented with their emails. They got an email to their donors sent from their ambassador's parents, a letter to Tilly on her birthday. Australian Childhood Foundation went back to basics. This was an email sent through Campaign Monitor, which looked exactly like it was coming from the fundraising manager at Australian Childhood Foundation. No Australian Childhood Foundation logo on there, a long link to click in, just like me would be sending you an email. It shot the lights out. Trend 3 is that SMS, sorry, we're just moving on to the next slide. SMS is now mainstream. For those of you that have followed the Give Easy journey over the last few years, you've been hearing us talk about SMS, how SMS has to complement your digital strategy, has to complement your overall strategy, especially at appeal times. And I would suggest that if you weren't sending an SMS this tax time, you missed out, especially because 30 June was a Sunday this year. As you know, SMS is the perfect way to reach your donors, especially when they're not at their desktop or they can't call up to make their donation. And charities such as Food Bank New South Wales and Oxfam Australia sent out unbelievably emotive SMSs using words such as last chance, such as hope, such as midnight, words that we have emphasized time and time again get the best results, with a pre-filled form making it so simple to make a donation. And the results speak for themselves. This isn't a joke. The average gift was $140 across all of our SMS campaigns, and the ROI at 6.5 times, in our view, is astounding and is showing that donors want to give simply and easily, anywhere, anytime. So I'll leave you with those 3 trends. As I said, there's a document on our website that goes through our 5 emerging trends. I'd ask you to think about how you can involve these emerging trends in your next campaign. Can you give it a go? Can you test it? Can you do something different? Because I promise you the results will be different and will be positive, and you will impress your team and especially give your donors an amazing experience on digital. We're now going to hear from Julie Mullen, and I'll let Tamara Rosenthal, our marketing manager, introduce both Julie and Simone to you.
Thanks so much, Jeremy. That's really good to hear the insights from the campaigns that we've worked with over June. So I've got 2 amazing stars here that I've spoken to and talked through their campaigns, and I just want to share their success and from their own words be able to talk through these amazing campaigns that were run. So first up, we've got Julie Mullen, who is the individual giving manager from Variety, which is the children's charity in Queensland. And we will also hear from Simone Plunkett, who's the fundraising executive at Brisbane Lions Foundation. So let me just introduce you to Julie. Just one moment, and I'm just going to switch to Julie. So welcome, Julie. I'm thrilled that you're here today, and I'd love to hear about your campaign over June. So I'll hand over to you.
Thank you, Tamara. Good morning, everybody. It's an absolute pleasure to be with you all today and to be able to share with you some of our learnings and maybe challenges that we had in our end of financial year appeal. Firstly, I'll just share with you a little bit of information about who we are. So we help kids essentially in need when government support isn't available. And some of what we do is providing practical support to kids, schools and organisations through our grant program. We have a kids experience program. We provide assistance to kids with existing talent in arts, educational sport through our Variety Heart Scholarships program. And we also have our programs of Variety Kids Sports Camp and a Variety Kids Choir. That's just some of what we do, and always believing that all kids deserve a fair go in life. Tomorrow we might move on to the next screen and I can get into the nitty-gritty of our appeal. Just to give you a little bit of background with individual giving for us here in Variety in Queensland, it is a new program. It is something that we started about 16 months ago and very much from a zero base. So we're really in that early developmental learning phase. We did our first tax appeal last year where we raised about $4,200 and 19 donors contributed. And 4 of those were through non-DM, so through our EDM or website. So for this financial year appeal, we were very much hoping for to demonstrate growth and have a much better result, but we knew that there were things that we needed to really improve on as well. Our last 2 appeals at Christmas and a small digital one that we do in March were really for very specific, tangible projects. And for this appeal, we wanted it to have a more generalised, sort of untagged feel about it. So we got together as a small team and we did some fundraising proposition work to try and determine what our ask would be. And we came up with, I think, 3 different, very different asks, and then we relied on some small numbers of donors to give us some feedback. And resoundingly, we came up with little Ollie's story, and huge thanks to her mum and dad for sharing what they did. But little Ollie was a healthy and happy baby until she was about 8 months old, and she got her first cold and shortly after went into severe heart failure and was flown to Melbourne and had a heart transplant. And all went really well, and months later returned home. And it was just before she turned 2 that she began getting sick again, and there was no known cause as to why this was happening. And then she had her first grand mal seizure, which lasted for over 2 hours, and it resulted in little Ollie having significant brain damage and severe epilepsy. So since then, so for the last 3 years, she's suffered up to 250 seizures in a day. She does require care 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And we were asking people to donate that would help provide specialised equipment to keep Ollie and other kids like her safe. For us, it was really about trying to find that story that would engage our supporter base. That was the main goal for us, and we were really fortunate in being able to share a lot about Ollie's journey and imagery and video as well. We might go on to the next slide tomorrow. Thank you. So for us in our appeal activity, we're really trying to build a multi-channel approach, and we do a mail where this year we did a pre-coms postcard to a small amount of donors who had given in the last 12 months or so, and we did direct mail, and for the first time we did 2 waves of direct mail. And in our digital, which is really important, we did an EDM series, and I'll talk more about that very shortly. Homepage banner is really important. It just takes over that homepage. We did a social, and again, it was about trying to share that journey that Ollie and her family have taken, and it also featured in all of our newsletters. We did try SMS this year, and we had a match giving promotion as well. But what underpins all that as well is our thank you strategy. And you can see on the right hand side, that was the landing page that we used. But that's fine, Tamara. We can move on to the next one. We can talk based on the results that we got at our tax last year, where we had 4 donors and they contributed about $200 to our overall campaign. We really have been working very hard on trying to experiment and explore on how we can improve our EDMs, and with a focus on trying to lift our open rates as well as the click-throughs. And what we did this year in our tax, where the very first email we sent was basically introducing Ollie, and very similar look and feel to what we did in the direct mail piece, and there's some nice imagery, but we concentrated on trying to keep it not too long, because we had a tendency of doing long emails in the past. And then for that email, we resent it 48 hours later to those people who had not opened it on the first send. And we find we get some pickup rate with, again, some more people opening it and donations coming through. For us, the signatory of who the emails are coming from is something that we're also testing. So the first email, the signatory on that was from our kids support coordinator, and that then helps us move through the EDM series so that we can change it up a little bit and try and tell the journey, Ollie's journey, from a different perspective. So the 4th of June email that we did, in the DM, the direct mail piece, we had a 2-page lift, which was a special letter from Ollie's parents, where they personally spoke to our donors about their journey and explained why they're regular donors and how they give because they want to support other kids just like Ollie. And so we essentially used that letter as a special message from Ollie's parents to our donor base. But this time we did a bit of a split test because we're really unsure of, and we're trying to improve the open rates. And so what time are we sending it? And we're comparing early in the morning versus that later in the afternoon. And you can see on there that for us on that particular day, the late afternoon worked better for us. And so that email was from Ollie's parents. And then the 13th of June, what we found has worked really well for us is we do an email, it goes through MailChimp, and we're essentially trying to make it look like it's coming from our CEO's desk. And he was forwarding the message from Ollie's parents and talking to our donor base about how important it was to get support. And that is our strongest performing EDM as far as open rates go as well. So that has worked really well for us. And then on 19th of June, we go back to the email coming back from the kids support officer, and again, it's more of Ollie's journey, but we just try to tell it up in a little bit of a different way, use some different images that they may not have seen. And this time we tested our subject line, because we're hoping if we can really work out what works, we can really lift those open rates again. So we tested 11 days left and with their first name, and show kindness today and with their first name. And that personalisation we're finding is really improving our open rates as well. And that the second subject line worked much better for us. The 28th of June was really just what we're in-house describing as an e-blast. It was really an image, the same image that we used on our variety, the homepage banner, about help keep Ollie safe, and really about it's close to 30 June, now's the time, and it was promoting our matched giving promotion. And then to tie it all up on that 11 June, we did 2 thank you emails, one specifically for the donors who contributed, and then a second one to those who weren't able to contribute this time. And the message is very much around that engagement and talking about their support in the remainder of the year. So I think not everything works for us. It hasn't worked for us perfectly, but the experimenting, I think, is helping us to improve our overall result. I've included this just so that you can see the importance for us on the learnings through us tracking. So now that we're using the Give Easy landing page, it has made us so much easier for us to track where is the traffic coming from. So for us over end of financial year, it was EDM was really strong on the landing page, as well as through our social posts and ads, but also through our variety website. So it's showing us for us that homepage web banner is really important as well. We also had a bit of traffic coming from DM as well. And then it changes a little bit when we look at, well, where was the value? So we did have EDM. We knew with our DM, because they're quite direct mail responsive, we had a small amount come through and donate on the landing page. But there's obviously work that we need to do in our future appeals where we're lifting the value through our social ads, social posts. And I think we might have bucked the trend there with the SMS. It's showing 0, but we did have some problems with our tracking link there, I think. The tracking is just as essential to us as it is as trying the experiments and trying new things to improve the overall result. I think I showed earlier that we had a $30,000 goal. I can happily share with you that we achieved 34,900, just over that, and there were I think 391 donors who contributed. So for us, big improvement on our first tax appeal last year.
Amazing. It's such an amazing campaign, Julie. Thanks for sharing. And you know, in our discussion, you know, I walked through what were the steps that actually helped you to take this to the next level using every possible digital channel. And I really love the steps that you talked us through. So starting with telling a heartwarming story, you know, I love Ollie's story and the different perspectives that you were able to take the donors on. So step 2, talking about Ollie's family and friends and really telling the story from different perspectives, and even your CEO and Ollie herself on the landing page really works. And then step 3, setting a clear fundraising goal. You know, I think that's a really key, and being realistic about it really helps you to achieve that and track much better. And then step 4 is use every digital channel. You know, I really love the fact that you experimented with so many different elements, and sending people to a personalized landing page really just makes it so much easier for the donors to give. There's no barriers there. And yeah, taking the donors on a journey, and also using a thank you strategy. It just shows how much you value the donors, and it's just a really nice way of completing the communication, but also inviting them to the next stage. So thanks so much, Julie. Really appreciate your insights there. So what I'm going to do is I am going to introduce Simone now. I'm just going to switch the audio. Just give me a moment. Okay, so Simone Plunkett is the fundraising executive from Brisbane Lions Foundation, and we're thrilled to have you here with us today, Simone. So I'm really interested in your June campaign, and I will hand the desk over to you.
Thanks, Tamara. Hi, Jeremy. Hi, all. Thanks for tuning in. I'm really excited to be a part of this webinar today. And I've been at the Brisbane Lions now for around 3 months. And it's a very exciting role. It's very much a greenfield role, but at the same time, it's quite a challenging role coming into an organisation that's not your traditional not-for-profit. And it's going to be a very big journey in terms of an educational piece for the club. So I think the first thing for me to do coming into the organisation was to kick a goal early. And with the end of financial year on the doorstep, we decided to run with an end of financial year campaign called Help Kids Thrive. So we might move on to the next slide there, Tamara, please. So essentially, the Lions haven't done any sort of planned giving, and we literally had about 4 weeks to turn this around. So with such a short time frame, we decided to do this online. And I guess like any appeal that you do, whether it's a direct mail, a video piece, or an EDM, it's making sure you've got that right mix of ingredients to tell that good story, which we sort of, Tamara and Julie sort of wrapped up at the end of that presentation there. So for me, it was coming in and finding that really emotive story. What's that need that we needed to fill within our club, and how could our members help us meet the need? And then obviously importantly, it's creating that deadline and that sense of urgency, which was pretty easy considering the end of financial year was only 3 weeks away. So June the 30th. Then importantly, it's got to be relevant. So if we looked at our audience who are pretty much our Lions fans and AFL fans, what story is relevant to them? What story can we tell that keeps them interested in helping us with our journey to success and sustaining that success? And then lastly, and really importantly, it's making that goal tangible. So how could a member's donation of, say, $25 help the future success of the Lions? So once we had all that, we put our goal together. So if we jump to the next slide. Thanks, Tamara. So simply our goal was basically to increase donations from our membership database and to raise $73,000 in 19 days. And we wanted to do that because we had a goal, and the club has a goal to provide another 550 academy places for young and talented kids by 2021. And in order to reach our 2020 goals, we had to provide another 75 places, which we didn't have the funds for. And essentially $73,000, if we could get that across the line, that was going to make that possible. So the most realistic and time-effective way for us to achieve this in 3 weeks was pretty much just to make this a full digital online campaign, and with the long-term goal of using this as our first step to really start to build our donor supporter base. And how do we go to market? So on the next slide, we're sort of going to talk about it's really important, I guess, to map out those channels and to who is your audience and what is the best way to communicate and engage with them. So as I said, the Help Kids Thrive initiative was a full digital campaign. So we ran it over 3 weeks from the 11th to the 30th of June. And basically we did this online because the majority of our members have emails, and through all of the below channels and via our EDMs, we were able to make a really beautiful Give Easy donation page, which we could pre-populate with all the dollar handles. We could embed our video in that and also have a nice little blurb on the campaign. So it was a one-stop landing page that we directed all of our members to. And we did that via 4 waves of EDMs, Facebook posts, and then we also did a mix of social media. So on Instagram, Twitter, some really great homepage banners and skins. And as I said, the crucial element was having that really simple and easy donation page where we could convert a member into a donor. So jumping ahead, what really was important to do online and this medium, it has to be visual. So we know a picture paints 1,000 words, and a video takes it that next step. It's even more engaging. So what we did, we shot all of our content for the video in one day. So we did a piece to camera with our vice captain, Harris Andrews, who was a successful academy player, and then with Bruce, who is currently in our academy. I had just over 1 hour to do this, so we had to move pretty quickly. And then post that, what we did, we edited the videos using some pre-existing footage, which obviously the Lions have plenty of, and a little bit of creativity to bring that together. So across our 4 videos, there were 4 varying stories, which was a really good way for us to also do a little bit of A/B testing and see whether Harris helped us have more opening rates, or whether it was Bruce, or whether it was the signatory, Greg Swan, who was our CEO on those emails. So then on Facebook, we did a series of stories as well as some strong calls to action, and they worked really well. I think what's really important with Facebook and with all the EDMs is making sure that you're taking people on the journey. We're not sort of just banging on about donate now, donate now, donate now. It's sharing those stories and using your donor engagement and your donors and stories to help engage more donors, because people like to give to people that are similar to them as well. So that was really good to sort of really mix that up online. And then the other really important bit, jumping ahead, is having some really clear dollar handles. So as I mentioned earlier, it's really important to make sure that your gift's tangible, that people really want to know, what does my donation do? Is it really going to make a difference? And sometimes if your goal's too high, people are going to feel that their small contribution of, say, $25 is not really going to be able to help you get to your $1 million mark. But if you set a tangible and realistic goal, and then if you describe the benefit of their gift and what it achieves, it becomes much more real in the donor's mind, and then they can really see and visualise how their contribution will make a difference. So in our case, we had $3 handles, and we had one which was $25, which would provide a week's training for an academy player. Our $75 handle provided a player with a month's access to specialised training. And then we also asked our donors if they could make a stretch gift of $125, which would provide a full playing kit for one academy player. And then importantly, coming into the end of the campaign, we added the match gift element, and this really helped us lift our campaign in the last few days. And there's 3 really important messages I think I'd love to share with you that we learnt from this with match giving. And I think visually on the Give Easy page, you could really see with that match giving, it started to close the gap on our fundraising target. So the closer we got, the more donations came through. So it was really a domino effect there. Secondly, people will consider giving more than they usually would, as they know their gift is going to be doubled. And thirdly, which was an interesting one, we got some nice comments on this too, was that people who would not usually give, gave. So this was very evident in all of the giving patterns over the timelines, and as I said, on some of the comments that we received post that. So thanks to the match giving, I really think that's what got us across the line to achieve the results that we did. And I'll take you through those on the next page. Thanks, Tamara. So in total, our target was to raise $73,000, and overall we raised $83,000, and this was the mix of how we raised those funds. So crucially, the online component is obviously the most successful, and we brought in $50,000 there, and we used our matched gift, which was also promoted online to help us achieve that. We had a raffle on the side, and then we also had a $5,000 donation offline. And the highlights of this, if we break it up, are just on the next page here. So this is specifically for all of our online donations. We had 466 donations come through, and the average gift, which was I was really happy about, was $107. The highest gift was $5,000, And interestingly, the email open rate was 55%. So our usual email open rate to members is 22%. And I put this down to our Help Kids Thrive emails coming from Greg Swan. And I think that was the real point of difference there, rather than it just being a normal sort of marketing email. It was really personal. It was coming from the CEO and asking our members to dig deep and help us and come along for the ride, be a part of our team. And all of those emails were from Greg Swan, including the thank you piece. And then lastly, but not least, is the importance of doing a really good thank you. And I can't stress enough how important a good thank you is, and really a timely thank you at that. So as soon as anyone made a donation to the initiative, they received a thank you email and also a really lovely video from our Vice Captain Harris, who is the face of our campaign. And the thank you video told them how important their contribution was and what it means to Harris, and importantly, what it will mean to other kids who'll get the chance to play in the academy. Then a week post campaign, we also sent an update thank you email, and the subject line for that was your gift in action. And I was just really lucky with the timing of this, as the week after the campaign coincided with our talent and ID training day to identify new academy prospects. So we had the opportunity to go out there and actually talk to the kids that were trying out, as well as the coaches, and we took that opportunity for them to do a piece to camera and say thank you to all of our donors. This is how much your donation means, and this is it in action. So it was really lovely to be able to finish that off, and I guess what that thank you did was it took the campaign from the 360, from the ask through to the donation. Hey, we've met our fundraising target. Thank you so much. Here's your gift in action. And it was really showing our donors how they helped meet a need, how they helped us solve the problem. And I guess to surmise, I think my mantra is always sort of is the KISS principle. So keeping it simple. Go out to your donors with a really good story and a strong call to action. Have a really clear ask, and then repeat, but keep it simple.
Thanks Simone. An amazing campaign. Thank you for taking us through. And, you know, in our discussions this week, you know, we just talked about the tangible things that you can do. And I think what I love about this story is that it's really about a community. It's about the supporters. It's about your fans who are members, and they can see the contribution that they make at each stage, and really feel more and more part of the club. So, you know, step one, don't be afraid to reach out to your donors. Like, you really took that bold step, Simone, to really go out there and have a broad-based campaign to everyone on your database. So, you know, I think the tip there is don't be afraid, jump in, reach out to your donors. And then step two, just mapping out your channels, being really clear about what are the possible channels that you can use, and test them out. Do the A/B testing, see what works and who resonates with the audiences. Step three, I love this step, you know, make it fun, play with video. I love the story about you going and having an hour with people just to quickly capture their story firsthand, and then sharing that with people so that they have a participation, they really are taken on a journey. And step four, with matched giving, having clear dollar handles that people can relate to and know that they are purchasing or offering a donation that will be of value to you, and adding a countdown timer on the page to encourage people to give, and donors who generally would give a small amount gave more because they knew that their donation was being matched, as well as new donors who haven't given before were just given that extra little nudge to give to their campaign. And then step five, saying thank you with style. I really think that talking to the kids, finding out how they went, and telling the donors about their gift in action, what it's actually done, and saying thank you is just extraordinary. So thanks for that, Simone. It's really quite a pleasure to hear this from you. So what we'll do now is we're actually going to just do a little bit of an experiment. So we're going to go to putting the videos on, just so that you can actually meet Julie and Simone face to face. So I'm just going to switch Julie's camera on, and then I'll go across to Simone. Just give us a moment there. There might be a slight delay, and then I'll share my webcam, which is myself and Jeremy. It seems that Simone's video is a little bit of a delay. I will send the request one more time. Okay, there we go, fabulous. So now we've got a little bit of time for some Q&As. So Jeremy's got a couple of questions that'll just dive into those campaigns a little bit more, and then we can open up to Q&As from the audience. So over to you, Jeremy.
Yeah. Fantastic, thanks Tamara, and thanks to Julie and Simone for two organisations at the start of their digital fundraising. I think everyone will see that by the targets that both organisations achieved, but setting their organisations up for success, taking their donors on a journey right from the beginning, from the first email, from the first piece of contact, all the way through to that important thank you. And so we really wanted to get Julie and Simone to share their learnings and the culture of giving within their organisation and the stepping stones that they're setting their donors up for. Because GiveEasy's worked with both of these organisations only for a short period of time, but the culture and the work ethic and the way that they just get things done with a short, small team is to be admired. What we might do is, I've got a bunch of questions, but I would also encourage you guys out there as well, at the same time that I'm firing some questions off at Julie and Simone, to type away, and let's see where we get to with my questions and the panel and the questions from the audience. I suppose my first question, Julie, to you is, you talk about a multi-channel approach, and you talk about, you look at that slide, you experimented with probably everything that I would suggest, direct mail, emails, pre-filled URLs, social media, SMS, even though your list was small. Talk about how important that multi-channel approach is. And I think you commented to me about you saw donations come through direct mail after you sent the email out. Talk to us about that.
For us, we're finding and we're learning that it's about multiple touch points, and we can see, especially, for example, when we send an EDM out, I find that a few days later, our direct mail response is spiking in the post. We find also with our, so it's not just, our DM people are not just reading the mail. We believe that they're also reading emails if we've got the email addresses, but they're also seeing things on social. And in some of the tracking that we're finding as well, that people are receiving an EDM or seeing something on social, but they're actually going to our website and checking things out a little bit more as well. So it is those multiple touch points and having consistency across them. So they're seeing that same message, same key message and call to action as well.
Yeah, fantastic. Simone, I think you reached out to me in early May talking about a campaign in February or March of 2020, some sort of big capital campaign. And then I saw you sort of playing around with our pages at the end of May. You put the campaign together unbelievably quickly, new to the organisation, obviously a wealth of experience behind you. How did you do it? Like, how did you get the Brisbane Lions Club to get behind raising this chunk of money, sending out 4 emails to their database where they're normally sending them match day information, because I feel that there's a whole, I mean, sure, there's a whole lot of other not-for-profits out there that don't have an AFL club behind them, but have competing priorities from their marketing and comms team and their peer-to-peer team, and share some of those learnings with us.
Yeah, it's a really good question, especially in sports, coming from pure fundraising organisations to fundraising being a very new part of an organisation where there are many competing priorities for that media space, especially online, and especially because we're doing so well. It's very much about that building that fan base. So I think when I came in early, late sort of mid-April, I knew there was a huge educational piece here. So I started drip feeding emails weekly to the team, the admin team and the footy team, called Fundraising emails, and started sharing some stories about what that would look like. Then I did a fairly big presentation to the board about a potential fundraising strategy for the next sort of 12 to 18 months. And then off the back of that, I got some feedback as they wanted to run a campaign into the end of the year and raise some funds. And I thought, I've got to turn this around quickly. But the best thing in that space was, and in this club, if the board gets on board, the team gets on board, we all do it. So I had that buy-in, which was crucial. And from there, it was just going and talking to every department, going and getting the stories, finding out how they've been doing things, and building a story and taking them on the journey, basically. How are we going to get there? What's the story that we're going to share? Why are we going to do it like this? And using examples of what we'd achieved in the past, and then putting that into play. So it was also fitting that in with the marketing strategy and timeline, and with the games, and with in between sponsor obligations and players' messages and a whole host of things, was where do my EDMs sort of sit in there. So that was a challenge, but we did have the board buy-in. And I think the great thing about it was a really different piece of communication to our donors. That was unlike anything that we'd done before, and it was really well received and embraced. And you would have seen the comments on those landing pages there, Jeremy. That was really important for us to be able to feed back to the club. So I was able to share all that goodwill coming through our members.
Fantastic.
So it was a process.
Thanks so much. Julie, dollar handles. For a well-established individual giving program, best practice is to use last gift, to use last gift, and to do some sort of multiple of that, 1.2, 1.25, that sort of thing as dollar handles across emails. You obviously, beginning of your program, some people had donated before, but the majority of your donors, or the people on your list, sorry, I should call them supporters, hadn't given before. How did you settle on your dollar handles? I think you used dollar handles like $25, $58, $124. For an infant individual giving program, how did you come up with those amounts?
Can I tell you the truth? I have to admit, some guessing, some on what we'd used in previous appeals. And I think for us, that is one of our definite work in space, things that we know that we need to improve, and to back up those personalised, pre-filled lovely forms, the more that we can get that amount right for that individual donor will help us improve the success. So we were with some, it was basing it on what they'd given before, and then others just really trying to come up with what we thought might be a reasonable and not greedy amount, if that makes sense.
Yeah, fantastic. And talk to us about match giving. We've heard how amazing match giving is. I've seen it work amazingly well. Match giving was one of our emerging trends. I think it's also important to share some learnings, some things which, may go wrong with match giving. You know, you had a, sorry, you had a, I think you had $3,500 of match giving, which was awesome for your target. But I think 10 minutes in after sending that email and the SMS, someone actually, an individual had donated $3,500. So talk about that and what you'll do in the future.
Oh, I knew you'd use this as an example. We were really thrilled when we had 3 donors who very generously contributed $3,500 so that we could run a specific match appeal for our end of financial year, and that was pretty exciting for us. And we did a plan. We very much were about planning how we were going to implement that match giving. And we spent some considerable time planning what we would do should that match giving finish. We were thinking it might go on Saturday afternoon, maybe, you know, and we're quite shocked when one of our lovely supporters donated, and it was literally 10 minutes after it opened, $3,500. And it was awesome celebrating with her and ringing her up and thanking her for her generosity. But I was also a little bit disappointed. I would have liked to have seen it go longer. So for us, we'll be concentrating on building a bigger match giving pot, so that it can last longer and we can engage, try and, you know, really use it as an acquisition and existing donors, trying to get them to give again.
Yeah, fantastic. I've probably got one more question, and then there's quite a few questions that have come in that I'd love to get to. Probably my question's for Simone. So you raised the $50,000 from the public, you had $25,000 match giving. First time Brisbane Lions Foundation had really run an online campaign like this. 19 days putting it together. Can you give people a sense of the cost? I mean, there's obviously one of you that really is in terms of the, like, there's one Simone in the fundraising team at Brisbane Lions Foundation. You're doing sort of most things. Can you give, outside of, you know, the cost of yourself, the actual cost of putting a campaign together like this?
So this was pretty cost effective because we do have a marketing team at Brisbane Lions. And there's a few in the team there. So we had the ability and the access to equipment to literally walk downstairs into the footy area and do a piece to camera, come back up and edit that. So the real hard costs, we had a copywriter that helped us write 2 EDMs, and then just setting up fundraising platforms. So I think this in total probably cost really about $850, which was
awesome.
a pretty good investment considering the return.
Yeah, fantastic. I think we'll get to some questions. I don't want to run out of time, so maybe we just try and keep these answers as brief as possible, but answer the question. So we've just got one from Jessica Frost, and I think it's a really valid question. So it's around match giving and around everyone doing it. So, you know, do you think the success of match giving will start to lose momentum now it's so common? Do any of you have and I know that you sort of ran your first match giving campaign. Do you have any thoughts on that?
Well, I might jump in there because we actually closed off our match giving because we hit our target 3 days before deadline, and funds still kept coming in. So it is a really interesting question, but looking at that, people were still giving separate, independently of that. But for me, it was using that match giving at a crucial time to help us, just bring our fundraising close to that tally as that motivational tool. So being able to do 2 weeks of sort of general asks and bringing that in sort of at the 11th hour was a real game changer. But I guess, yeah, time will tell.
Yeah. Julie, I might fire this one at you. This has come from Emily Bates. For emails, I think you sent a couple from your CEO. the sender ID, did they come from the CEO? Did they come from a name? Did it come from the CEO/Variety Queensland? Can you remember, in terms of, the question is, would people open them with an unknown sender in them? How familiar is the CEO to your organisation, to your supporters?
It's a good question. We had this conversation about, what do we do? We did not use Steve's email. It was just, I think, a Variety Queensland identifier. But to give you so I don't think that impacted, and it was our highest performing open rate email. But to give you a sense, we had supporters responding to that email as if Steve had actually sent it to them. And they responded in a really conversational style.
Yeah.
If that helps.
Yeah, we found that too. It's a really, that forwarding technique is really interesting. And I think what we found is actually that we use MailChimp, but MailChimp actually treats that email quite differently. So definitely experiment with using a different sender ID, even if it's unfamiliar to your database, just to make it personal and to take your donors on a different journey, bring a different voice to your campaign. Yeah, I would definitely suggest experimenting with that.
Another question that's come in from Alexis Kolsky, probably to Julie. Curious as to whether you've experimented with shorter long-term copy in your email.
Yeah. We tried shorter this time for most of them. And in previous appeals, like for our Christmas appeal, we were definitely doing that long form, and it was really, we actually are going to try experiment more with that, because we think the shorter we had less click-throughs, and if for some reason our audience might like the longer. So I think it's something that we definitely will experiment with more to try and find what our audience is receptive to.
Yeah, it's really topical at the moment, the length of the emails and the story that people want to hear when they're giving.
Even the language, like we did try more shorter, sharper, succinct sort of copy this time. And in previous, we've sort of more injected those empathetic words like compassion and kindness and care, and we didn't do so much of that this time. But towards the latter part of our EDMs, we started injecting that back in because we felt it was missing, and it was just improving some of the rates. So we'll keep playing with those sorts of things a lot.
Yeah, cool. We've probably got time for one or two more questions. So Matt, another question about match giving, and I'm just going to combine a couple of the questions here. So how did you guys acquire your match giving partner? What's involved? And yeah, let's leave it at that question for the time being.
I'll go first then. So we had conversations with donors. We asked them, this is something, would they like to double the impact of their giving, and they were really receptive. Just for everyone's information, this is one question that we've included in our supporter survey, which is live this week. We're specifically asking our supporter base if this is of interest to them, and would they like to participate in match giving, be a match donor this year. So I think that'll be interesting feedback for us, and potentially some leads for the future. So
Simone?
Sure. So that's a really good question. When I first sort of crunched some numbers to look at what we might potentially raise from our database on a first-time gift, I came in around 42K, and I just thought that number was too low to go out for a campaign. Had a chat with some of the team, and we get a major gift every year from a lovely donor of a bit over $34,000. So we had a conversation with him and said, could we use your gift to help us drive and leverage our campaign? And he said yes, which was fantastic, and it worked. We hit that goal. And the benefit of that too was forming a better relationship with this donor and being able to demonstrate where his funds were going and how it helped other people be more generous with their gifts as well.
Fantastic. I think last question comes from Katie Armstrong. Do you have a general rule as far as the number of emails you send out? Obviously, talking about unsubscribes and just too many emails versus too few versus reaching your fundraising goal?
For us, it's a rather complicated thing. Like, we've got a really heavy event marketing calendar, and so it's trying to sort of integrate in with that as well. And we do have lots of conversations around, is it too many? You know, just trying to have a little bit of break in between. And we probably would not do many more than what we did at end of financial year as well.
Good answer.
On our end, because it is such a crowded market, I knew there was a fair bit going out anyway, so it wasn't going to hurt too much to send another few. The important thing was to keep the story updated, keep that journey going. So in every email we sent, we'd reference the last, we'd give the donor an update, and we'd share a fresh video as well. So making sure that content's new and fresh, but that it keeps referring to, this is our goal, come on the journey, you can help us. So we did sort of 4 overall, and that might be a push to get that through, but it wasn't, and it was well received, and we got minimal opt-outs from that.
Mm.
Fantastic. I think we're done, guys. I'd just like to thank both Julie Mullen, Individual Giving Manager at Variety, the Children's Charity Queensland, and Simone Plunkett, Fundraising Executive at the Brisbane Lions Foundation, for their time today, for the time that they've prepared for this webinar, and for their amazing digital fundraising campaigns at June. Thanks to everyone for joining today. July and August are great months to plan for the future, to work out what you did well, to learn from other organisations as to what they're doing well, and to supercharge your next overall fundraising campaign, whether it be a spring campaign or a Christmas campaign. Thanks again for your time today. Thanks to Tamara for being here and helping with the amazing work that she does at GiveEasy. And thanks to you guys for tuning in, and to our clients for the support. We're really looking forward to helping you further your digital, to educate you on what best practice